I sat down in March of 2025 to write the final episode of the Mountain Meadows Massacre podcast, I ran into a problem I didn't expect. One that had nothing to do with missing data or unresolved facts. It was structural. In project retrospectives, there are 4 basic metrics we're trying to answer. 1, what happened and why, based on evidence and personal experience. 2, what worked. 3, what didn't. 4, how can the process be improved? My intention for the final Mountain Meadows Massacre episode was a straightforward project management style retrospective. Analyze what happened in 1857, what we now know to be true, where interventions could have prevented catastrophe, and whether American society has addressed those causes since. That's where the process broke. Because every single foundational cause of the Mountain Meadows Massacre exists now, unresolved, and plays out in real time on a 24/7 social media loop. So how do I write an update when the honest status report is 168 years later, no change, still unresolved? When your family's well-being and livelihood depend on your ability to identify root problems and see evidence of correction, and that correction hasn't happened, the frustration isn't academic, it's visceral. In July, another historical rhyme helped me reframe the problem. One I mentioned briefly in the Ancestral Chicken Soup for the Soul article, but which fully belongs here. Elizabeth first. Her father, Henry VIII, detonated nearly every stabilizing system in England: religious, political, demographic, diplomatic, leaving all of Europe in chaos. His son Edward ruled briefly and died young. His daughter Mary I attempted to correct her father's actions through violence, earning the nickname Bloody Mary. And then came Elizabeth. 11 years after Henry's death, Elizabeth I began a 45-year reign now known as the Golden Age. Not because she erased the damage that had been completed, but because she rebuilt systems deliberately, collaboratively, and within reality. She didn't pretend the crisis hadn't happened. She didn't solve it overnight. She rebuilt anyway with the people and the tools that she had. That's the missing lens for the Mountain Meadows Massacre and for present day. The questions Elizabeth's era had to answer about system repair are the same questions we are still avoiding. So, regarding Mountain Meadows Massacre, what happened and why? It took 166 years, from 1857 until 2023, to assemble the clearest factual picture of what happened at Mountain Meadows. What we now know is that 144 men, women, and children were executed in a coordinated, Mormon-plotted attack involving militia members disguising themselves as Native Americans, and Native Americans who were either coerced or convinced that they had to participate. 17 children aged 6 and under survived because they were too young to tell tales. Those children were dispersed into southern Utah households for 3 years while lies, misdirection, and institutional silence obscured the truth. In 1857, information traveled slowly. Today, it travels instantly. But speed didn't solve the problem. It mutated it. Access to information also means access to misinformation. So the central question becomes, how do we distinguish facts from narrative when both travel at the same speed? So here are some questions to determine fact from narrative control. Number 1, is this a credible source? Does the person actually understand the subject? Are they an expert or a loud aggregator? Do they have a stake in how you learn this? Are they motivated by power, fear, money, or validation? Number 2, is the context appropriate? Does this claim align with established facts? Has the story changed? And if so, why? Does this explanation hold up logically over time? Number 3, Is this being used to make you feel? Are headlines framed as emotional combat with words like destroys, owns, or annihilates? Is blame assigned to a single source when facts rarely have single causes? Facts don't win or have feelings, they either hold or they don't. This leads us to the root causes that never left. Aside from advances in science and information accessibility, the core causes of Mountain Meadows remain painfully familiar. Failures in separation of powers, deep class and economic gaps, polarized belief systems that punish dissent. These are centuries-old problems. No individual can fix them alone, but individuals can surface them. So, let's start to look at how to identify separation of power conflicts. Is power operating without conscience or consequence? Is someone's safety, livelihood, or social standing threatened for disagreement? Are people acting outside their defined roles? Is accountability diffused or intentionally absent? If no one owns responsibility, abuse will fill the vacuum every time. So next, how individuals can narrow those class and economic gaps. We can't do it individually through grand gestures. It has to be through consistency. Progress beats perfection. So treat people and places with mutual respect. Treat public spaces like shared property because they are. Do the best you can with the tools you have and trust that others are trying to do the same. Yes, that includes returning the shopping cart to the cart corral. These actions don't solve inequality, but they model a different baseline. So, does this fix anything? None of these questions or actions will solve the larger issues on their own. But systems don't reform without visibility. And visibility doesn't happen without people willing to name gaps out loud, repeatedly, and without theatrics. The Mountain Meadows Massacre didn't happen because people were uniquely or inherently evil. It happened because systems failed. Authority went unchecked. Narratives replaced facts, and dissent became dangerous. These conditions didn't disappear. They just learned new interfaces. Recognizing those interfaces is the first step. Refusing to normalize them is the second. Elizabeth I didn't inherit peace. She inherited wreckage and chose reconstruction. That choice is still in front of us today. History doesn't repeat, but it keeps asking the same questions until we answer them.